7:49. It is Wingin' It Wednesday. We're only
You are on a roll.
we're all giggling because when that one hits and it says everybody hands go up, your hands got to go up, And
Whether they want you or not.
Whether they want you or not, it's like a rule. All right, so we continue on now with our Wingin' It Wednesday guests. We have Warren Cottle, Carol Ross, and we've got Mike Stagg in studio. Coming up on our third question, just past the 8 o'clock hour after our news, we're going to be talking more about the encyclical and Catholics in Acadiana. The encyclical, does it have an impact on Acadiana? Does it or does it not? Oil and gas industry. We'll kind of tie it all together with that too. Be joined by Warren Perrin at that time and Vice President of LOGO, Gifford Briggs at that time. So we'll start with question one. We'll start with Mike. The first question, in the encyclical, Pope Francis writing, climate change is a global problem with grave implications, environmental, social, economic, political, and for the distribution of goods. It represents one of the principal challenges facing humanity today. That is what the Pope said. Agree or disagree? Mike, your thoughts?
Agree. What I was driving down Pinhook the other day, and there was a car in front of me that said, you can't be Catholic and pro-abortion. Well, after this encyclical, you can't be Catholic and a climate change denier. The 8 points that Pope Francis made in his encyclical are that we are the cause of the degradation of the earth with climate change and the others, that the part of the world looks like garbage. Fossil fuel burning is climate change's main culprit. The poor suffer the most. Poverty and inequality must be addressed. The urgency to act falls on all humanity. It is a myth that the human race can dominate the earth without consequences. The current level of inaction is indefensible, and there is hope. This is consistent with over 150 years of Catholic social justice teaching. The criticism of the materialism of the West has been made consistently by popes, including Pope John Paul. But we were so caught up in what he was saying about communism and the totalitarian state that we were happy to ignore the other implications of his critique of the West. And this is, again, consistent. We have had 25 years ago, there was a similar encyclical, but climate change was not on the public agenda as it is today. I believe that this is a conversation that will resonate. It's an encyclical. It's not just a letter. And I think it will force a crisis of conscience, particularly in places like Acadiana, where you have a large number of Catholics and you have a robust oil and gas industry, similar to what's happening in Mexico now.
All right, Warren, your thoughts?
First thing, I don't want to go at odds too much with Pope Francis, but I really think that what he's trying to do is to build himself a legacy where he goes down as being the Pope who brought the Catholic Church into more political correctness inside the 21st century and on and on and on. And as far as trying to say that man-made climate change, to me, is totally anti-biblical, and to try to say that man is the most powerful force in the universe today and that we're the ones who has the power to shape the world and whatever. Climate change has been going on for eons of years, and if I remember correctly, there was a huge climate change event back long time ago when it rained for 40 days and 40 nights and destroyed all the life on the face of the earth. And I do believe that at that time, and it's been preached by the churches since then, that was God who did that and not man who did it. And for the Pope to come out there and say that man is the cause of all of this stuff, then man must be the one who has the power to change it. And that's what I want to get into on my next thing. If he really believes that, then let's step up to the plate.
All right, Carol, your thoughts?
Well, I would certainly not challenge the Pope's infallibility on matters of faith and spirituality, but I do believe that there's a problem here, and to paraphrase the great one from over 2,000 years ago, render to science the things that are science, and to God the things that are God. So I would keep the two somewhat separate. The church has had a long history of sponsoring science, but it also has had a history of sometimes punishing those that haven't agreed with the church on scientific matters. So I don't. I take this encyclical for what it is. The Pope comes from a third world perspective, and so he's blaming the first world for all the ills of the world. And actually, the first world has done a great deal to mitigate the problems of human activity, whatever they may be. But there have been a number of recent research of non-governmental, the governmental stuff. The United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change has started a lot of this, and there is so much money being changing hands when it comes to carbon tax credits, when it comes to government grants going out to make sure that the research fits a certain postulating of climate change caused by fossil fuels, et cetera. But there's a lot of new research coming out that I think may mitigate some of that information. And as far as this being on the radar screen of most people, I mean, if you look at the reduction in particulate matter, you look at the EPA recently being slapped down by the courts in terms of regulations on mercury. Mercury's gone down, the incidence of mercury in the environment is down 58%. Because of regulation, because of changes that have been made. Particulate matter down over 30%. There are changes being made. We're cleaning up the air and water. This encyclical, I'm not sure what the purpose of it is, but I don't think it's going to have a huge, huge impact on changing the way we approach things. It's working now. Cleaning up the environment is working now.
Mike?
Well, first of all, glad to hear Carol endorsing regulation. That's good to hear. It's a nice change.
Reasonable regulation.
This is, there is no science that is not paid for by the fossil fuel industry that denies man-made climate change. And you can trace the greenhouse gas levels. Bloomberg News had a great graphic the other day. You look at greenhouse gas, it tracks the Industrial Revolution. It is directly tied to fossil fuel burning. That is the cause of it. That's the primary cause of man-made climate change.
All right, we'll go to the phones now. You're up. Go ahead. Caller, please.
Hello, this is Robert Garcia. I'm calling about Wingin at Wednesday.
Okay, well, you were on the air live. Did you have something that you wish to share about it?
Yes, ma'am. I just wanted to, I am a sustainability business consultant in Acadiana. And I just wanted to point out that around the world, sustainability is a very fast-growing industry. And it's not growing because there's money to be made. It's growing because there's people around the world who've recognized the need for sustainability. And if sustainability, whether you believe in climate change or not, I'd just like to know what do the people who are opposed to sustainability, what is their position when it comes to trying to adapt to what the rest of the world is already doing?
Okay,
What do you mean by sustainability?
Yeah,
Let's define that.
Sustainability is making decisions for tomorrow that will benefit our grandchildren and our children and future generations without compromising their ability to enjoy their lives.
Okay, who doesn't want to do that?
Well, it used to be called stewardship. It doesn't exist here right now.
Oh,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
we
It
have to wrap it
certainly
up
does.
for this hour, and we will continue. I knew this would generate a lot of discussion. We've got your Fox Business Report on the way. That is coming up. We've got a little bit of news at the top of the hour. We continue on with our discussion. Add some more folks into the discussion this morning.
Are you tired of asking people to speak up? Would you like to hear more clearly, but you don't want to wear a hearing aid that makes you then you need to try life-changing breakthrough precisely designed by top audio engineers to fit your ear or senses. And you can adjust this to find the perfect way to hear everything, wherever you are, and whatever you're doing. And right now you can try this here absolutely.
Hey, Gifford, can you hear us okay?
Yeah.
Good.
Sure.
Okay, good. We'll be ready to go. We have sports, weather, and traffic, and then we'll be ready in about probably 1.5 to 2 minutes.
Fantastic.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, he really likes that spin.
I now continue with Wingin Wednesday. Our panelists joining us in studio, Carol Ross, Warren Cottle, Mike Stagg. Then we're going to add a few more to the mix. Gifford Briggs is joining us on the line today, so we'll be talking to him coming up in just a bit, and Warren Perrin as well. So we continue on with what we were discussing about the Pope's encyclical. So Warren had some more comments that he wished to make. Warren, your thoughts?
The main thing I wanted to say is that I do believe that that the Pope is sincere and up to a point what he wants to try to do. Here's what I would really like to see him say, if he really believes what he has said, and that is, let's just go ahead and just ante it up. He wants to have a big conference to come up with ways to combat climate change and all this, that, and other. What I would like to have seen him say is, I have put out a decree for every diocese and every church, Catholic church around the world, to liquidate half of your trust funds, half of your endowments, sell half of your properties, all the buildings that you got that you're renting or whatever. We're going to start in the Vatican. We're going to sell the Vatican Museum. We're going to raise billions and billions of dollars, maybe a couple of trillion or whatever it is, and we're going to donate this money to a fund to study a way to come up with a new energy, with new cars, or with whatever. And we're going to do it. There's not one single thing that stops Mike Staggs, myself, Carol Ross, the Pope, anybody else from going out there and inventing a new car, a newer form of energy, or any of that. But what I hear from all of these people is that everything is our fault because we are the way we are. And they want to sit there and try to have it both ways, especially with the Pope, who wants to sit there and say we're against birth control. We want many people in this world, but we're also opposed to all these scientific farming technologies that's allowed us to feed the world, and we're against this burning carbon fuels, which allows those tractors to go out there across that field and grow the rice, grow the wheat, grow the corn, and we're against the GMOs, the hybrid corns that have allowed us to feed the world. So we want to get rid of all of this stuff. And we're going to do it for the benefit of the people, especially the poor people.
Yes.
And so we're going to kill about a third of half of the people in the world as soon as we do all of these wonderful things for them.
Mike?
Bullshit. What the Pope's encyclical does is provides the standing for any Catholic, to stand up in their church, in their parish, and say, what are we doing in our parish? Why are we not putting solar panels on our schools? Why is the church, do we have to air condition the church at 68 degrees when we could be doing it with less? Can we not make our schools more efficient? And this is the standing that it gives to ordinary Catholics. And I want to tell you that, the Pope is a Jesuit. The Jesuits operate 240 universities around the world, 25,000 high schools. This is their mission. They have taken this up as their mission. There will be change. It will be top down and it will be bottom up. And that is the power of this encyclical.
Okay, we're going to get to some telephone calls this morning. All right, caller, are you there this morning? Okay. All right, thank you.
So yes, the climate changes. Yes, indeed it does.
All right, next caller, you're up, caller, go ahead. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. Which is? Well, okay, everybody gets their opinion this morning. Okay.
And what are you going to do to the Pope? The Pope will be here in September. What will you do to him?
Uh-oh. All right, so, wow.
I saw him last year, by the way.
Right about the time that, just after this encyclical came out, the Pope made, of course, his visit to South America, and it had a lot of people scratching their heads. There is Evo Morales, the Marxist president of one of those, Ecuador, Bolivia, whatever. He hands him Christ crucified on the hammer and sickle.
And that's the president of another country. What's your point, Carol?
My point is the Pope said he was not offended by it.
Have you seen the pictures?
Interesting. All right, one more call, then we have to get to our other guest in studio. Caller, you're next. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is what I find amazing that Catholics generally don't consider prayer.
Well, Francis has come up with all sorts of heresies. He doesn't accept Catholic teaching. Therefore, I don't understand why Catholics consider him to be Pope.
Okay, all right, thank you. So I don't think we're really going in that direction, but okay. All right, so we've
So is the Pope Catholic? I guess that's the question, right?
Not according to John Boehner.
Right.
Okay.
Boehner's more Catholic.
Boy. I knew it would be interesting this morning. All right, Mr. Briggs, are you there this morning, sir?
I am.
All right, very good. So we have Mr. Briggs on the line this morning, Vice President of the Louisiana Oil and Gas Association. We have Warren Perrin joining us in the studio this morning. So who wants the first shot at conversation to get started here? I think we'll start with Gifford first. Gifford, you go ahead, sir, please.
Well, I think that, the question that was posed to us, and I haven't been able to listen all morning, so I apologize, but I got enjoyed what I've heard, was what is the Pope's encyclical going to have an impact on Acadiana? And when I look at things in the short term, I'm going to say no. What is going to have an impact on it, though, is the policies that are enacted in Washington by the Environmental Protection Agency, under this administration, the next administration, and what that means. We're in the process right now of the EPA, reviewing their ozone standards, with the decision set to come down on October 1st. They're supposed to lower those standards from 75 to either 70 or to 65, which is going to put Lafayette in non-attainment, which we don't have any in major industry here in Lafayette like there is in Baton Rouge. And so how are we going to then move into attainment? And if we stay in non-attainment, we lose massive federal highway funds. And so you want to talk about what's going to have an impact on Acadiana with climate change and global warming and ozone standards. It's the policies that are enacted in Washington that come down to Acadiana that are going to put us, in front of losing our highway funding and who knows what else for something that is going to be next to impossible for us to address.
Okay, thank you very much. You guys want to weigh in? Mike?
I just want to ask Gifford if he believes in man-made climate change.
I don't know where one way or the other. I mean, I think that the impact of the sun, the impact of the system, of the solar system, how that all impacts the climate and on the earth, I don't know. But if you do believe in climate change, or you do believe in global warming and that what we do makes an impact, what's going on in China is every bit as what's important is going on in the United States. And if we're really concerned about global warming, what we need to be doing is finding ways to attract the investment in the industry that's moved out of the United States, where we have very strict environmental regulations, get those jobs back in those industries and those manufacturing plants back from China, where there are no restrictions, there's no restraints on what they can do as far as emissions. Bring those plants back to the United States, bring those jobs back where we do have tight restrictions. Because that will immediately lower the amount of emissions that are being put onto the global climate and will help global warming and climate change.
All right, thank you very much. Stand by for that. Mr. Perrin, your thoughts on whether or not this encyclical will have an impact in our Acadiana community?
I agree totally with Mr. Briggs's assessment that in the short term it'll have probably very little effect. And I'll speak to what I think I know best, and that's Vermilion Parish people. I've had the opportunity as an attorney for over 40 years trying cases in that parish to investigate backgrounds of jurors, question them on voir dire before they're selected for a jury, but most importantly, debriefing them after they render a verdict. I will tell you I've been involved in 3 jury trials involving landowners against oil companies, and the oil companies unanimously win those cases. And when we debrief jurors, they tell us is that they mostly vote their pocketbook, and they're so dependent upon the oil and gas industry that I don't think any Pope's directive will impact that. I'll give 2 examples. Before the Civil War, Pope John Paul III ordered that slavery end in the United States. Of course, it took 700,000 deaths and a civil war to settle that issue. I'll also point out in the civil rights movement, there was an encyclical issued by Pope Gregory ordering that in Native American relations that they should be treated, even though they weren't members of the church, as human beings and their possessions and liberties respected. Well, we know that the greatest ethnic cleansing took place in North America against Native American people. So those are 2 historic examples where Americans have totally ignored a directive from the Pope, and I don't see this to be any different.
Okay, all right, Carol, you had another quick comment?
Just to reinforce what Gifford said, having been to China and seeing that 75% of their energy comes from coal plants, and they're not, as he mentioned, they are not regulated. They are going for the energy, they're gonna grow their economy no matter what. So a good tax policy to bring some of those companies home where we do have good regulation, where we do have regulation about the particulate that's put out into the atmosphere, that would be a good policy. And to think of Lafayette being put under some onerous restrictions that we don't really, we don't qualify for is kind of funny. That coal plant that fuels our energy, and I've talked to Terry Huval about this. Are they going to go to flex fuel sort of technology so they can convert back and forth from coal to natural gas depending on what the prices are, et cetera? And he said they're looking into it. So, I mean, there are changes being made.
Okay, Mike, you had some final comments as we're wrapping up here?
There's no fence line between Baton Rouge and Lafayette, so the bad air from Baton Rouge makes its way here. If you cross the Mississippi River Bridge, you can see the coal-fired plant at New Roads blowing its brown smoke in every afternoon. Second thing is that China has agreed with the United States and the Obama administration to reduce greenhouse gases by 30% in the next 15 years. They are ahead of schedule. They are making massive investments. They are making massive investments in solar in their country, just like they made massive investments in public infrastructure that we're not doing here.
Well, that's funny. The tour guide over there said they're working very hard to get there, but it's not really going as quickly as they would like. I read a lot.
See what's going on.
I read a lot, and I read some skeptics over this thing, and I also know that science. Generally, when they say there's a consensus, you should run the other way.
Right. The only people who do not believe in man-made climate change are people paid by the fossil fuel industry.
People believe in climate change. They don't always agree on the source or the reason for it.
Man-made climate change, greenhouse gases.
What is the cost for the impact? If you look, I mean,
yeah, just what's extinction? What's extinction cost, Carol? What's the cost of extinction? Absolutely, that's what we're talking about.
And the minuscule advantage of some of these onerous regulations over 1,000 years.
Yeah, mercury.
You can understand why people don't get too excited about it because they're not going to be here in 1,000 years.
Okay, Gifford, you had a comment, sir?
Yeah, just one thing. I mean, people that want us to reduce our emissions should be celebrating the oil and gas industry right now. For the first time ever, natural gas, we're generating more electricity from natural gas than we are coal. And that's because of hydraulic fracturing, it's because of horizontal drilling, and the incredible technologies and investments that the oil and natural gas industry is making, that we have been able to move from coal, which most of the environmental groups want us to move away from coal, to clean burning American natural gas. And it's because of hydraulic fracturing, it's because of the oil and gas industry, it's because of the people in Acadiana that is possible today. We have natural gas buses in the city of Lafayette because of that technology, because of this industry, and we should be celebrating the work that this industry does.
Fracking is as dirty as coal.
Oh my.
Okay.
It is. Look it up.
Warren gets a comment, and Gifford, we're going to thank you very much for your participation, sir. Thank you, because we're just running out of time now. Thank you, I appreciate it. And Warren, you had some final comments for this morning?
Do I believe that man-made climate change? I believe that man-made climate change probably accounts for about 1/10 of 1/1000% of it. I believe in God-made climate change. I believe we've gone through several ice ages over the years. Global warming in this period of time started at the very apex of the last ice age. At some point in there, the earth got as cold as it was going to get, and then it started to warm. And at some point, it's going to go back to cooling again, and we're going into another ice age. And what I got to say to my friends who are screaming and hollering about man made this and man being the most evil thing ever invented in the universe, they should be welcoming that next ice age, because it will probably wipe man off the face of the earth. And it may come in 10,000 years rather than in 30 or 40,000 years.
Okay, I got one word for you, Warren.
God-made climate change.
Photosynthesis.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Warren Perrin, Mike Stagg, Warren Perrin, Warren Connell, Mike Stagg, Carol Ross. Too many people in the studio.
Too many words.
Thank you, Bernie.
I appreciate y'all. Y'all have a great day. That was
Thank you.
fun. Thank you. And we'll see y'all next week for another.